Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a deck list for one of the few leaders I haven't made a deck list with in this card game right now. It is the red and green Luffy leader, and it comes out of set 1, and always in my mind it's just like a worse version of the Trafalgar Law. If something is like 4 life in red-green, I always think that the Trafalgar just has a better kind of condition for what he is, and just a little bit stronger than what this Luffy does. But it recently got a top at a big locals by Jonathan Rodriguez out in Florida, and so his list is right there on the screen right now. I used that list, I tested it out a little bit, I made a couple little tweaks. We're going to talk about the deck in general and why, like me, you should be giving it a second chance and maybe re-looking at this leader. So inherently, what does this leader do? It is a Supernova and a Straw Hat Crew. An active made once per turn for 4. You can set up to one of your Supernovas or Straw Hat characters with a cost of 5 or less to active, and it gains +1k power for the duration of this turn. So it's 4 costs, so just some like easy math, and kind of how I did comparisons with it is that, you know, the useless kid leader resets itself for 3 energy or 3 dawn and being able to discard 1 card, so a little bit more cost effective for that, but you do get like the extra +1k boost, so it makes it sense for there. And that it has to be a character, which means that you have to kind of set this up a turn before, unless you have something with rush, and then you get to use the restand ability. So inherently that's kind of a little bit less impactful for me there, but there are some reasons for it, and I think there are some strong plays with this deck too. So we're just going to kind of go through it and go from there, but that's just kind of what this does. Again, it is a 4 life, and red and green I think are just the best 2 colors in the game right now anyway, so having a leader that has both colors I think is very helpful. And maybe if it isn't as good as Trafalgar Law, it's probably still better than a lot of the other leaders out there, just because inherently, again, red and green is very, very strong in this set. So going over our 1-drops, we have first the Otama, probably one of the best cards in the game, honestly. It is so flexible in what it does. Cost 1, on play gives something -2k power, and then it's also a +2k counter as well. So a lot of reasons to use this card. Obviously, it's used in Trafalgar Law too, because you're able to bounce it back to your hand very easily. So you can do something, give something -2k, and then you'd be able to, like something like a blocker that's annoying, or get something into the range of some of your destruction effects, and then you can bounce it back to your hand for the +2k counter, or do it again another turn. But it's still just good for us here. Nothing bad with having this card, so I think that's strong. And then we do also have 4 of the Namis as well, and so it's a good card. You should know this by now. It's a 2k. You're able to search from stuff. Straw Hat Crew. Straw Hat Crew is probably the best tag in the game right now. So like, why would you not want to be? There's no like dawn like power like cost like top. So it's not like a 5 or less. It's any character card, which is really good there. So and then moving on to, we're gonna look at something else in a second, but first we also have the Jewelry Bonnie, which is essentially the same thing. It's Supernovas and Bonnie's Pirates, and then being able to suspend it to be able to look top 5 for a Supernova is pretty good, especially since there's a lot of good Supernovas in this deck. You technically could use 4 Dawn to restand this and then draw another card if you really want to. I doubt it that's really what you want to do with it, but you can if you want to, and that's super strong there. Also, Nami is technically a target for the leader effect too. Again, I'd very rarely say that's a reason you'd want to, but there could be situations with, you know, play Nami turn 1, it stays on the board the entire turn, and then late game you need 1 more swing or 2 more swings. That could help you out there too. And then a little bit of a divergence for us is that we have 2 of the Capone Gang Beige and 2 of the Tony Choppers. The original list just had 4 of this guy, and I do like the Tony just a little bit because it does have the Straw Hat Crew. Not necessarily for the leader here, but there are some other reasons, especially since you can search it off the Nami. So Nami could be used to be able to find a block if you need one late game, and Bonnie's kind of the same way, and it's red, which we'll talk about later. But I do like just the 2-2 split here instead of just 4 of the Capone Gang Beige. So those are all of our 1-drops, obviously playing a lot of 1-drops in this deck. And then going into our 2-drops, we're going to start with the Sanji. And Sanji is like probably one of the better cards to use our effect off our leader. So activate once per turn, you may add 1 card from your life to your hand. This card gains the character gains +2k power during the turn. Then give this character up to 2 of your rested Dawn cards. So this becomes 2 + 2, so this becomes 7k all by yourself. So if you're able to do it later in the game, you can do some really nice things with it. And then you can use like Luffy to attack with it again. So you have like a 7k swing and then an 8k swing on something that technically will only cost you 4 Dawn for. It's going to technically cost 6 because you have to put 2 Dawn underneath them, but It's actually up to 2 rested Dawn, so you can just make him a 5k and then go from there. There's like some weird math with it, but he's very good there, and it's a 2k counter in hand too. So this is like really easy just to play for 2, and then if you set up and your opponent lets you do it, you get to do 2 really big swings with the Sanjay off the Luffy. I don't know if it's going to come up because you have that much, because you do have to take the life as well, which you're only at 4 life. But since you're so aggressive, you really don't care about being at lower life totals. And since you add it to your hand, it's actually like a draw one, which is kind of strong there. And then we also have Killer here, which is a supernova. It's blocker, Dawn times 1 on block. If you have 3 more characters, you get to draw 1 card. So not too terribly difficult to do there too. This is all of these, like, I'm going to just mention it with the leader every time. Some of these are way more niche than others, but since this is a supernova as well, and you need a Dawn times 1 for its on block, you could do something where you use if you've got like literally nothing better to do, you can use a Luffy to put the Dawn underneath the Killer, and then you attack with the Killer, and then you spend the 4 Dawn to restand it, and then you can block with it next turn. I don't think you'd ever really do that. I've never really had that come up, but that's something you can do, and I just wanted to mention it. So being able to use your leader just to bring something back to active that's a blocker, which we'll see later too, can be impactful as well, and just means like you're less afraid to swing with your blockers because you know that you can get them restood back. So those are level 2s, and obviously like card draw is great and blocker is great. So, and it's a 1k combo, so it's never like even like super dead. Going into our 3s, we have 2 of the ISO. Rest one of your opponent's characters for cost of 4 or less, and it's a super counter as well as a 2k, so good there. Nico Robin, another good target for our I think this is like, obviously as we get into bigger boys and girls, we do have like better cards for our leader effect. But Dawn times 1, when attacking KO one of your opponent's characters with 3k power or less. And so like if they have like a wide board of smaller things, especially if you're playing against Trafalgar Law, you can use Nico Robin. So you play this on turn 3, and then on with 3 Dawn, and then when you have 5 Dawn, you put 1 Dawn underneath it, swing 5k, and then use the leader effect, and then do it again. So if you're playing against Trafalgar Law, you can do a lot of board removal with this, which is really great. You can really slow down their plays, which is strong. So I think that's something worth it there. And again, it's a 1k combo. It's a Straw Hat. We also do have 2 Zoros, which the original list didn't have either. I don't think, and we'll talk about what we took out for it, but I don't think it's bad to have this. It's a 3-cost Straw Hat. Using this effect with, like, if you have nothing on board and you need 2 kind of bigger swings, what you can do is that you can use Luffy, go into Zoro, and then restand it if you need to. So that's like something impactful you can do as well. Just make sure that you get like more swings out on the turn. So yeah, for 7 Dawn, you get a 5k swing, a 6k swing, and a 5k swing from an empty board, which is sometimes kind of good. And then you get more from that too. We took out one of the Utas. The original list was running 3. We're running 2 just because 1, it doesn't have counter, but it adds 1 red character other than Uta, the cost of 3 or less from your trash to your hand. So it can add Zoros, which can help you just get like 1 more swing for game if needed. It also can get your Sanjis back too if you need that, which there's a lot of 2k counters. And also you can get Tony Choppers. That's another reason we're running a couple of these, just because it does help you get like a blocker from your trash if you really need to. So I think that was a justification for that. And then we're also only running 3 of the Monkey D. Luffy rush cards, so we took out 1 for the Zoro as well. Obviously this is really good for ending games, especially with the Dawn times 2. You're able to make it so your opponent can't activate blocker. The only rough thing is that like you can't use the Dawn times 2. Like if you have 10 Dawn, so you spend 5 to do this, you put 2 Dawn underneath here to make it 7. So 7 Dawn you use total. You can't use the 4 to do this in the same turn because that costs 11, unfortunately. So you do have to kind of like either set this up or like this. It's very hard for this to swing twice unless you kind of block it and you let it live for the turn, which isn't too terrible. But like this can be a really good game ender at the end of the game too, because your opponent has to counter out of it if you do have the Dawn times 2 for it. So if you like this at 4, go for it. I just like the more kind of changing it to Zoro and stuff. And it is also searchable off the Nami as well, so I think that's good. We've kind of just split into like the bigger cost of our stuff. But next we have Trafalgar Law, which is a fantastic card in its own right. It is a supernova, which is great for the tags for it. 6k blocker. And it's a 5 cost, and then so it's a 5 cost, which means you can use the Luffy thing. So this is like be a good leader that you can use Trafalgar Law to get something else, do the bouncing effect, and then after that too, you'd be able to use the Monkey D. Luffy to like on the next turn you'd be able to attack with it, use Luffy to restand it afterwards, and you still have your 6k blocker, which is kind of nice. So a lot of good things for that. Obviously, running this is also kind of why I want to put Zoro in, because Zoro is like Law's best friend when it comes to that. And there's just a lot of reasons. So for example, let's say you attack with your Sanji, you do the effect where you just swing in with it and you get your 7k swing. You can use Trafalgar Law then to bounce this back to your hand, or you can bounce back a Nami that you played earlier and then you get the search again later. Like, there's just so many cards that benefit from this Trafalgar Law. It's very, very strong. So like the idea of the card and helpful in this deck. And then our last of our character cards is the Captain Kidd. Very great as well. So downtime's one opponent's turn. This is rested. Your opponent can't attack this card. Cards other than this for the turn. And also activate main once per turn, at least while this is around. So you have to have 1 Dawn underneath it, but then they can't do that. You can't restand it with your leader, that'd be busted, but still an 8k there. Also activate main once per turn, you may rest this card, play up to 1 character with a cost of 3 or less from your hand. So that can be a lot of great cards, including, unfortunately the Oud is a 4 cost, but then that's also why I think Zoro is like a good cost for it. We could also play the Killer, which is fantastic too as a blocker. We have a bunch of blockers and can help you out there. And so like if Kidd survives like 1 turn, then you're probably in a really good spot. So I like this card too. It's really obnoxious to get around at times and very, very strong. And then just a couple of event cards that we have to go over, not that many, but we do have 4 of the Radical Beams, which is fantastic for this leader because we're going to be at 2 or less life very quickly. So just a 4k, and then also just 2 Gum Jet Pistols for Nidas as well. And we do have, again, like I always need to talk about Otama because you can give something minus 2k, so if they have an 8k, so if they have an 8k Captain Kidd on the other side, you'd use Otama and then Gum Jet Pistol and then bam, 6k, and then you just get rid of it for 5 Dawn, which is quite good. It's 2 cards, but 5 Dawn, and then also there's stuff like if with Nico Robin as well, it's only a 3k or less, but then you can use the effects of the Otama to make it a 5k down to a 3k, and then use the Nico Robin effects. So all these like good synergies for the deck and very good. I don't know if I feel like this is like better overall than Trafalgar Law yet, but it is a different take for kind of the archetype. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of cards with such a limited card pool as similar as the Trafalgar Laws list that have been going around, but it's less consistent or like less necessary on getting a wide board, but more on getting a tall board. So I think if a lot of decks are doing stuff where they get rid of a lot of smaller cards, being able to build a deck that has a couple just medium to large cards that you're able to use the effect of the Luffy with to get a lot of value from, those decks aren't going to be able to get rid of your guys as easy. So that is the list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think about this list, and we'll catch you all next time.